Okay, good evening, everybody. Hi, my name is Ian Shepard, and I'm the owner of Right Start Newcomer Services. Welcome to tonight's live stream. Tonight's live stream is Saving Money in Canada. And we have a really special guest tonight. His name is Imo Ikede, and he's going to be talking to us about saving money in Canada. So we're very excited to have Imo with us. He's a great speaker. He owns his own company called EGI Tech. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him before I add him to the show. So in 2002, Imo Ikede started his company, EGI Tech, to help people and businesses effectively manage their finances, increase productivity, and achieve their goals. He does this through coaching, workshops, seminars, online courses, publications, and through personal example. Imo enjoys showing people how to easily take control of their finances through practical steps that bring the greatest rewards over time. Imo believes everyone has a skill, hobby, or passion that, when realized, brings fulfillment and joy. This is why he actively helps people find their passion and live their best life. Imo is also a published author, and one of his highlights in 2019 was donating 9,000 copies of his book, How Students Save Over $10,000 a Year, so that every grade 12 student in Nova Scotia got a free copy to help them manage their finances as they transition out of high school and start their post-secondary education and careers. Imo has an MBA, a PMP, IT, social media, search engine optimization, and business skills to help his clients solve problems, get discovered, and increase their profits. In his spare time, if you can believe he has spare time, Imo plays tennis, squash, chess, and is a budding real estate and equity investor. Imo is married to his sweetheart, and they both have a young and energetic daughter that reminds them each day how to live life to the fullest. Great. So I'm going to bring Imo on to the show. Hey, Imo, how's it going?
Hello, I am well. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for taking your time to talk to us today about such an important topic, how to save money in Canada.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, and thanks for the introduction.
Oh,
Um,
no problem.
yes.
So I know that you're an immigrant yourself, Imo. Do you want to tell us a little bit about when you came to Canada and a little bit about your story?
Yes. So I came to Canada not probably, I came to Canada over 29 years ago. I had a lot of hair back then.
Yeah,
And
so did I.
yes, well,
Yeah.
you still have more than I do, so that you're still doing
Okay.
pretty well.
Okay.
If I go back to when I was in high school, I remember I went to boarding school, and my nickname in boarding school was called the World Bank because for some weird reason I always still had money at the end of the month, and people who had more money than I did will come and borrow money from me. At that time, I didn't understand interest, so I didn't charge interest. But I've always had a knack for being able to live within my means. So not spending more than I make and just trying to budget right. And my parents set a good example in showing how to live within, their means. They never really went over and, spent to the point where they owed everybody and all. So that was the examples that I had. And so when I moved to Canada, I was 20 or so, I figured, why not keep on doing the same thing? And so not being in debt was something normal for me. Whereas I found out that here, debt was seen as one of those things. You have to, apart from your house or some of those big things, debt was just one of those things people just grabbed on and just kept on tacking it on, to the point where I believe the average Canadian family, they say, owes about $1.67 for every dollar earned, right? And
Yeah.
I just think that we know enough. We're in the age of information where there's a lot of information out there where people don't have to live that way. And I believe that everyone can make a choice. And in making that choice, start taking steps with the proper education to not put themselves into that end of the statistics where they owe, $1.67 and more to every dollar earned. So
Yeah.
I started teaching how to save money in about 2010, although I've had my company since 2002. And it all started with a bunch of people had seen some of the things we had done. Like we've never had a mortgage over 7 years, and actually never sold a house either. We're totally realistic investors. And the question was, how could you do that? Or how could we do that? And so I figured, well, I should start talking about that. So I did a bunch of things with the library, and then I started getting called to companies to come talk to some of their employees, and then I started doing my own workshops. And I believe I did one with you many moons ago. Again, to show people how money is not a mystery. You just have to take a little less time than you take to spend planning on a vacation to plan your finances, and if you take care of your money, it will take care of you.
Yeah. Excellent points. Yeah. It is funny how little time somebody puts into, managing their money, and people think of it like this grand mystery that is impossible to solve. But really, there's some fundamental concepts, and once people get those down, then it's not such a mystery anymore.
Right. So that's basically some of the things I want to talk about. And I know today, because we don't have a whole lot of time, I'm just going to narrow down to a few big things. And then I would also share where people can go and take. There's actually a course I have called How to Save Money. It's about 40 minutes, and they could take it for free. And Ian, at the end, I'll show you how they could go to the website, egitech.com, and they could go and get some more information on that. And also get some information on working on their credit scores to keep them up there. Because again, the higher your credit score, the more benefits you get in terms of getting lower interest rates when you're trying to purchase a house, for example. Right?
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Emo now, and he's going to go through his presentation tonight. If you're watching, then please add your comments, add your questions for Emo, and we will get to those after Emo's presentation. So his presentation is going to be for about 20-25 minutes, and then we're going to have a question and answer period at the end. Okay, excellent. So take it away, Emo.
Thank you. So again, this is going to be a little quick, but you still have the option to go and take your time, and you could take the full course, How to Save Money, and you have it again for free for 2 weeks, and you could do that online at your own time. Okay. So here's the website. Ian's going to show you that in the end. It's egitech.com, and I don't know if you can see my mouse, but there's the link to the online course, or you could click on that and it'll take you to the page. Ian, is my mouse showing over there?
Yep, we can see it.
Great. So one of the first things that I tell people in my sessions is, or I ask is, do you have a budget? And people go, well, yeah, I have some kind of a budget. But I guess the question is this, or the thing we're trying to answer here is this. We all know how much money comes in every month because you get a paycheck or you get whatever means of income that you get. But the question is, do you calculate how much money goes out? That's how much money you spend and what you're spending it on. Because it's not, at the end of the day, financial success is not how much you make, it's how much you could invest and how much you could save from what you have coming in. And if you don't understand where your money is going when you're spending it, then you will have that scenario whereby at the end of the month, there's this mystery as to where did my money go? Now, thanks to technology, it is easier than ever to create and maintain a budget. I mean, in the simplest form, a budget could just be on a piece of paper, where you just write out, how you spend money. But of course, you could do it on an Excel spreadsheet on your computer, or you could get an app on your phone, which you can get for free if you're on the Android platform. If you're using an Android phone, or if you're using an iPhone, you could always get a free app that you could use to track your spending. So the big thing I'll say about that is this, that if you don't have a budget, make a note to get one and get one soon. Select a tool, and the ones that are free or the apps that are free, you could test a bunch and just find out which one you find the easiest to enter information. Because the key thing is this, you have to be able to enter the information that you want to track, right? And getting a tool or getting an app that helps you do that easily would at least encourage you to create the budget so you can track your spending. If you do this for about a month, you can go back and analyze the results to see if there are any surprises. For example, were you surprised that you spent $300 eating out when you thought you only spent maybe about $50 or $100? Now, the thing with tracking the spending is that you can now go in and make changes because you now understand where your money goes. And it could be simple things like, if you go to Starbucks or go to one of those coffee places, you could reduce the amount of times you go, or you can make your own coffee, right? So the first thing I always say is, if you don't have a budget, make one, because everything else revolves around that. Now, there are three big places where most of us spend our money. Actually, it accounts to about 62% of our spend every month. And that's for accommodation, which is about almost 30%, transportation, which if you have a car works out to be about 20%, and about 13% for food. I call them the big three because they're the ones that if you take care of them, it helps take care of most other things. Because again, 62% is a whole lot of a big chunk of the amount of money which you have coming in for an income. So again, if you can make the best out of that, you end up keeping more money in your pocket. So the question now is, how could you do that in each of these places? Now, because of the pandemic, we've had a big spike in the price of houses in Nova Scotia. I haven't seen this kind of a spike. I mean, we got an income property about 5 months ago, and it's almost gone up $100,000 in value in less than 5 months. It's just something we've never seen here before. Well, here's the thing. Even though the house prices have gone through the roof, there's still some fundamental points that should be done, or some things that should be done when you're planning to buy a house. So the first one, again, goes back to your budget. Is you should budget to find out how much you can afford to spend on a house. A good way to do that is to talk to your mortgage broker or talk to your bank, and they'll tell you how much, based on your current debt and your income, you qualify for. So this way you don't go out shopping for something that is above your price range. Another thing I always say is this, that even if you're told that you qualify for, I'm just picking numbers here, $400,000 worth of a house, I would advise that you do a little less than that. So you give yourself some wiggle room in case something happens. It could be, like with the pandemic, so many surprises have happened, like people losing their job or somebody getting their hours cut back and all. And if you were paying just at the top level of what you qualified for accommodation, if there was a loss in income, it might be quite a bit of a shock to bear. So I always say, even if you're told you qualify for a certain amount, if you can buy something for less, so you give yourself some wiggle room, that's a nice thing to do. Now, again, with location, keep in mind that the closer you are to the city center, the more the properties usually cost. So sometimes you'll find that you can get the same house for about 30% less if you're willing to commute a little bit, move out of the city, about 30 minutes out of the city or whatever. So there's something to consider. Also, you could buy a house that has the opportunity to make income. For example, if it has an in-law suite that you could rent out, and you could take some of that money from rent to help offset the cost of having the house. So I have a few friends and clients who have houses that have a rental property, a rental unit upstairs or downstairs in the basement. So it's another way to help offset the cost of buying a house. Also, when you're looking at your mortgage, pay attention to prepayment privileges. These are the features that are added to a mortgage that allow you to make extra payments when you have extra cash, so you could help reduce the amount of interest you pay over time. Some of these repayment privileges are sometimes the ability to double your payments or to make lump sum payments up to a certain percentage of the principal. So those kind of privileges you should talk to your mortgage broker about to make sure you have them. And when you have them, when you have spare cash, use them. The more money you're able to put up front or put in lump sum, the less money you have to pay over the life of the mortgage. Now, we said earlier on, 20% of your income is spent on transportation. And if you think of the average price of a brand new car, I believe it's for a sedan is about $35,000 in Canada. Keep in mind that you could also get a used car. Actually, I have never bought a brand new car. I prefer putting money into property as opposed to cars, because properties at least appreciate. Cars, as soon as you buy them, the value depreciates. So I just want to buy something that's sound and good, and gets me from point A to point B, but I don't want to pay for depreciation. Now, a good example of that is this. If you took a 25-year period and you bought a brand new car, let's even use $25,000, right? Over the 25-year span, you would have spent over $100,000 on the car. Now, if you're a two-car-hold family, you would spend almost, $250,000 on cars if you change them every 8 years. Whereas if you bought a used car, for say about $10,000 or $7,000, and you got a mechanic to check it out, you end up spending only $40,000 on cars over that period of time. Now, what we have done in our own case was the extra money that we didn't spend on cars, we took it and put it in our properties. So that's how we're able to pay off quite a number of our houses in a relatively short amount of time. So again, now, if you have the money, yes, go ahead. The new car smells good and all of that. I get that. But the truth is, quite a number of the 4 to 7 year old cars out there, if you buy one and get a good mechanic, or if you look at one and get a good mechanic to give you the thumbs up, it would last you a couple of years, and you would save the amount of money that is paid when people buy brand new cars, right? So again, it's just another option to save money, right? So for your next purchase, I would say, consider getting a used car, one that's 3 to 7 years old. Also check the total cost of ownership before buying. There are certain cars that cost more to insure because, funny enough, they tend to either break more or because they are stolen more often. I was talking to my my car insurance agent to ask what cars cost more to insure than the others, and he said, well, the agent could actually tell you which ones cost more to insure, and a lot of times it has to do, like I said earlier on, with cost of repairs and the probability of it getting stolen. So if it's a car that usually the young people like to drive, I don't want to name names of cars, but you could ask your broker, those cars tend to be to cost more to insure than the others. So it's something to just check anyway, and total cost of ownership means how much does it cost to repair the car, how much does it cost to buy gas to get you from point A to point B. Is it a gas guzzler, or is it a car that is economical on gas? These are things that one should consider when looking at cars. Now, we said food accounts for 13% of the income spent. Now, I love to eat, and I love to eat well. The question is, can you eat well for a decent amount of money? And the answer is yes. There are just a couple of things that you could do. Now, here's an example. It's called the latte factor, and I'm sure a number of you have seen that. You could make a cup of coffee yourself for about 10 cents, depending if you add cream or sugar or milk. Or you could buy a cup of premium coffee for $5. So in 1 year, if you made a cup of coffee yourself every day, it will cost you $37. Whereas if you went and bought a premium cup of coffee every day for $5, it will cost you $1,825. If you spread that over 10 years, make it yourself, will cost you $370. And it will cost you over $18,000 over 10 two to just buy that premium coffee you could have made yourself, which actually $18,000 will buy you two great used cars. I guess the cars will be new to you, right? So again, it's just if what you want is a coffee, can you get it for less? And if the answer is yes, why not? Now, when it comes to buying food in the grocery stores, there's some things which you could buy in bulk that save you money. So for example, a bag of apples, as opposed to buying a single apple itself, you save money on that. The same thing as buying a single banana or a bunch of bananas. Now, keep in mind, some stores also have sales cycles. So that means like every month or every 2 months, you might find chicken or you might find certain things go on sale. So some of those things you could buy, and if you have a freezer, keep things in the freezer so you're always buying within the cycle and buying at a reduced price. Sometimes it's more than 50% off. You should also factor in the cost of eating out. You could make a sandwich for about 35 cents, or you could buy a sandwich for about $4. And then the impulse buy, when you go into the store and you don't take a list and you're just buying things just because, you tend to buy more things than you actually need, and you tend to overspend that way. So again, when you're going shopping, it's best to have a plan. So you have a list of what you want to buy and try to stick to the list. Every now and then it's okay to go out and eat. Just to, to have a good time. But when you're trying to manage your money, you have to pay attention to where the money goes. And eating out is one of those places where if you do not heed or take caution, you could end up spending a whole lot more than expected. Now, I spoke to Ian earlier on, and he said one of the other sessions he had done had credit scores. So I'm just going to go quickly on this one. In this economy, your credit score is very important. It determines what kind of interest rates you get when you're trying to borrow money for your house or to buy a car or whatever. So here you have what a good or excellent credit score is between 750 and 850. A good is between 700 and 749. I spoke to a mortgage broker yesterday, and he said that if you have a credit score of over 720, you might qualify for an additional special reduction in rate when trying to buy your house. And of course, every percentage point that is taken off means more money in your pocket because you don't have to pay that much back in interest. So keep in mind that your credit score is based on a couple of things such as your payment history, and that's how often you pay your bills on time. And the weight for that is about 35% of the weight of your credit score goes to that. The amount owed, right, so is about 30%. And the amount owed is how much of a balance do you carry at the end of each month. So a rule of thumb is if it's more than 25 or 30% of the total amount of the credit limit of the card, it doesn't go well in your favor. So it's nice to keep that to zero or as low as possible. Also, your credit history length. That's how long have you had credit. And credit is, you paying your phone bill or you paying all the other bills on time or paying your credit cards or whatever cards you have on time. And also public records. And then how many new credit applications you make. So these are things that help determine your credit score. So 3 ways really to simply improve your credit score are to pay your bills on time, carry a low balance, so 0 to low balance, and also limit the amount of credit applications you have. Some say that maybe just 1 or 2 credit cards are more than enough, right? But again, that's up to you. Ian, how are we doing on time? I just want to...
Yeah, we're great. We have 20 minutes in total left, so you can take maybe 5 to 10 more minutes.
Okay. Excellent. So I have this picture here saying, credit cards are great, but again, just remember it's high interest borrowing. It's not your money, it's high interest of usually, 20% or more. And if you fail to pay on time, that rate could go up to about 30%, right? Now, there's something called the rule of 72. Now, Ian, did you ever go over this with in any of your videos?
Yeah, I've gone over it, but not any time recently. So feel free to share. That would be great.
Right. So the rule of 72 just tells you how much time it takes to double the amount of money owed if you're not paying it back, right? So it's calculated by whatever the interest rate of your card is. You take 72 and you divide by the interest rate. So for example, on a credit card that is 20%, it will take 3.6 years for your money to double if you're not paying it back. So the amount of money owed if you're not paying it back. So in this example, if you borrowed or you put $5,000 on your card and you are making barely the minimum payment and always still adding, more charges to the card, in 3.6 years, you would owe $10,000. And in 7.2 years, you owe $20,000. And in 10.8 years, that would double again to $40,000. And it keeps on going on and on and on. as long as you don't pay that off. So that's the power of, interest compounding, except in this case, it's benefiting whoever owns the credit card, whoever you owe money to, as opposed to yourself, right? So if you had a card that was, 35% interest, it will take maybe 2 years for your money to double. So one word of caution I always say here is you'll see a couple of ads for these places where you can go and get quick money. This money places where you can go and get money. Some of them have interest rates that are over 100%. So that would mean that, in a month or 2 months or 3 months, your money doubles that you owe if you don't pay it back. So interest rate is important. It's doubly important when you're paying it out to somebody else. So just keep in mind the rule of 72 for interest rates when you owe money. And it's best, again, like I said, to keep your balances at zero or close to zero as possible. We do understand that from time to time life happens, either something happens to the roof and you have to charge something. We get that. But again, just remember, if you're paying 20% or you're paying 30%, if you don't pay that off on time, the amount of money you owe would double in a relatively short amount of time. So, for your credit cards, here are some best practices. Treat it like cash. Again, like I said, it's borrowed money. It's not yours. And it's borrowed money at a high interest rate. If you need to borrow money, you're better off going to the bank and trying to get, a lower rate that's just a few percentage points above prime, as opposed to your credit card or one of those money marts or money places where you get charged a high amount of interest. Pay off your balances at the end of the month, or pay at least as much as you can. Do not spend just to get rewards or points. I know a couple of cards have rewards and people will say, well, I'm trying to spend to get to the next thing. Usually the rewards tend to be maybe just 1%, in some kind of a cashback or something. But if you're paying 20% on money borrowed and you're only getting 1% back, you're already 19% in the hole. So again, do not spend just to get rewards or points. Limit the number of credit cards you have. And again, you can always ask your credit card company for a lower rate. And in most times, if you've been paying your balances on time and you call them up, there's a good chance that they might give you a lower rate on the card. And just a few points on buying things. There are a couple of things that are great to buy new, like pillows, I guess, pillowcases and bedding and things like that. But there's some other things that it doesn't make sense to buy new because you get a used one for a relatively good amount of price. Here's an example. I know I have a picture of a bicycle there. When our daughter was growing up, I went on Kijiji, the classified ad, and bought a bicycle for her for $30. She rode it for about 2 years, and then I sold it again for $30. So it cost me really $0 to get that bike. And then I bought another one and actually sold it for $5 more than I got it after she had finished riding it. So in the end, she had bicycles for all the years she was bicycling, or cycling, if that's the word. But it didn't cost me anything because I always bought used, and then when I was done, I sold it for the same amount of money I bought. The same thing with a ladder. You could buy a ladder, or the example I give, you could buy a hammer, and the hammer could cost you $35 brand new, or you could buy one for $5. A hammer is still a hammer. As long as it's in good condition, it'll do the job. So there's some wisdom in knowing what things you should borrow and what things you can rent. I know because we have rental property, every now and then I need to move something big. Instead of buying a truck, I just rent a truck for an hour and a half. It costs about $20 or $30, and then I'm done. As opposed to buying a truck that I'll just use once or twice a year, but then I have to pay, the expense for a higher gas consumption and a bigger truck and all of that, right? So understand the things that you use often that you need to buy and the things that you don't use that often that you could rent. For little kids who are growing up, especially when they're in the baby stage and they keep going through clothes, buying used clothes actually will work for them. You just have to wash them, put them in the wash and dry them, and they should be good to go. And then also tool share. I have a friend who I tool share with. He has the power washer and all of that. I have the drills and the power tools for cotton. So he doesn't buy what I have. and we just share tools. So that's our way of trying to save money, because at the end of the day, you only use the tools every now and then, right? So it's just something to keep in mind, that there are certain things, or there are many things that you can buy used, and you end up paying a fraction of the cost of new, and that's money which you could use to pay off debt, or if you have a house, use it to pay off your house a little quicker. So one of the last things I'll talk about here are home media and communications. I know you have your Netflix and you have, your high-speed internet and all. One of the things I talk about is, are you paying for excess capacity? And this is what I mean by that. If you have the fastest internet, and you're paying $100 and some for that, but all you do is watch YouTube and Netflix and send emails, you're paying for capacity that you're never going to use. It's almost like having a car, like we all have cars, that the highest speed on the car is 220 kilometers an hour. But in Nova Scotia, the speed limit is 110. So there's all this excess capacity that we're never going to drive, because if you drive over 110, you'll get a ticket. So nobody drives that fast, right? So back to your internet at home, you're better off getting according to how much you use. If you're not a gamer, usually the lowest high-speed internet package will do for you, because you'll be able to watch Netflix. I think Netflix only needs about 3 megabits or something. You'll be able to watch YouTube, you'll be able to send your emails and be on Facebook. So you don't need to get the highest one, and you'll save some money there. The same thing with your phone. And actually, home phones, most people have cell phones now. So you should consider if you really need your home phone for that. So just things to consider, that are you actually using all what you paid for? If you have a TV package that has 4,000 channels, and you only have two hours a day to watch TV, you're paying for excess capacity, because you're never going to watch all of that. So is there a chance for you to dial back on the package you have, so you could save some money? If it's $50 here, if it's $100 there, that's money that goes back to your pocket that you could use to either invest or pay off any debt that you have. The last thing, again, is your cell phone. I'd asked at one of the sessions I did how much people paid for cell phones. And some people pay over $100 for their cell phones, right? So again, the question you have to ask is, what are you using in the phone? How much data do you actually use? If you spend most of your time in a place like at home and at work where you have Wi-Fi, do you really need that package that has, the full meal deal? Can you pay back on that? And if the answer is yes, you might be able to save yourself, $30 a month or $40 a month on your cell phone bill. The key thing, like I said, is just to find out, are you paying for services or features that you don't use, which we call excess capacity? And if you're paying for excess capacity, can you scale that back so you could save and keep some money in your pocket? So just some final thoughts on what we talked about here. Remember that the key to a good financial plan, first of all, is to create your budget, so you know how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. For the things which you have, especially services, analyze your use and tailor your package to your use. It's like having a gym membership and you never go to the gym. Just pay for what you use, right? If you're not using it, then don't get the service. Plan your purchases, especially the big ones. Just don't go out and look at houses. Plan what you want to buy. Plan what. Get somebody to tell you what the amount you qualify for is, so you can go and buy according to your budget. And when trying to buy things, try to use discounts where you can get them. I know, for example, some of the grocery stores, if you have kids who are students, they could go to the grocery store on a Tuesday, for example, and get 10% off. There's some stores that give seniors a 10% discount on Wednesdays. So just use whatever discounts that are out there that are available for you. Again, it's free money in your pocket, right? And Ian, at the end of the question period, would also show you how to get to my website, so you could take the free course if you want, that goes through all the ways you can go and save money in all the different areas that you deal with on a regular basis. So at this point in time, I would like to open up to answer any questions that anybody might have on this.
Awesome. That was a great presentation, Emo. So yeah, like Emo said, we're going to have our Q&A period, question and answer, or maybe you have a really good tip on saving money that you'd like to share with the other viewers. So throw those into the comments section as we go. But I have a few questions, Emo, to get started. So you were talking about your properties and how you're a real estate investor. So I'm sure some of our viewers might be interested in investing in real estate because that's a question I get quite often. So is it easy to do? And are there any zoning restrictions on having like an income property or an income suite in your current house?
Right. There are some, again, depending if are we talking of someone who's trying to build or someone who's trying to convert what they have into an income?
Yeah, let's say they're purchasing something that's pre-existing and they want to add an in-law suite or a rental suite to their place.
Right. I would say they should probably just check to make sure that they, because there's some licensing and zoning like you talked about, to make sure that it's okay to do that. And also there are codes. You need to make sure you have proper egress points and exit points from the windows, because sometimes some of the rooms in the basement might have small windows that you can't jump out of if in an emergency, right? So I guess they're called egress points. Is that the word they use? So
sounds right to me.
It's just to check to make sure that from an electrical point of view you can do that, and also from a safety point of view you can do that, because the last thing you want is there to be some emergency and someone couldn't get out because the window was too small, right? Mm-hmm. So and online, the places that will give you the dimensions as to how big a window should be, right? And so if you need to make adjustments to that, you could do that, right? To make the windows up to code. So yeah, there are places, but I would say builders would have some of that, and also your realtor will be able to tell you a few more things about that because they're used to getting questions on that. But yes, there are rules that have to be followed to make sure that things are in place. Now, if it was a case of like a shared accommodation where you are not adding an additional kitchen, they were just going to share, then you can go ahead and do that. That's up to you to do that, because you're not changing anything to the structure of the house, right?
Mm-hmm. So, for example, you could rent out a spare bedroom to a university student or an exchange student or something like that.
Yes. Actually, we did that for a while there. We had actually 6 exchange students over a period of time coming, and we rented rooms to them. So yes, you could do that if you live close to a college, or if you're in Halifax, for example. There's so many universities and colleges here where you could do that. Now, just keep in mind, again, it means you're going to have somebody else in your space that's going throughout the house, so you have to be open to that, right?
Yeah.
So, but yes, and it's another way to offset the cost of your mortgage, because suddenly you have some income that goes against the mortgage, right? So you can do that. Yeah.
Great. I know that Airbnb, at least before the pandemic, was a very popular way to make some extra money, maybe renting out your apartment when you're not there, or house, or maybe renting out a room. Do you think that it will go back to the way that it was and everybody's going to start making money again on Airbnb?
Well, I think a lot of things, and again, this is the big old crystal ball thing, but I think that once we get to a situation or a stage where we are comfortable with the new normal of, okay, either people have been vaccinated and people feel a little bit safe and all. Because the thing with some of this is it means you have somebody in your space who you haven't checked to see, were they vaccinated, where did they go, what contact tracing things that they have or whatever, right? But I think that once people begin to feel safe about COVID, and that's behind us or under control, I think some of those things will come back, because the model itself for Airbnb is pretty outstanding. Actually, I have friends in New Brunswick who the Airbnb is still doing very well, and they're still getting bookings up to this point. But they have places in choice locations, either close to a lake or close to whatever. So people are still booking staycations within the Moncton, but they're moving to this place too. They'll go for a weekend and stuff, right? And the money is still good for Airbnb. I haven't done one myself. We just do straight rentals. But who knows? Maybe down the road it's something that I might consider. I guess there are also companies that have come up that would help you handle some of the, if you want to do the cleaning and the turnover and all of that. There are companies who will do that for a fee. So even if you say, well, I want to rent out a property as an Airbnb, but I do not want to, fluff the towels and clean the toilets and stuff. There are people who would do that for a fee, right?
Yep.
So the same thing with even renting. If you have a property you want to rent long-term rentals, but you say I don't want to write any leases, I don't want to look for tenants and all of that, for a 10 to 20% fee, people will do that for you.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. I think people will do almost anything if you pay them enough money to do it.
Right. And for the person, if you think of it, the person who's doing that, it's not their property, right? So they're just a middle person who's taking their percentage, and they're not owning any property. So that's, I don't know how you calculate that return. It's just maybe a return on their time, but the return is pretty sweet because they didn't put down any money for the property. And if you did that for 50 properties, suddenly that's a pile of cash coming in every month, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
Great. So again, I'll remind you, you can ask questions. So we have email for another 5 minutes or so. So if you have anything that you're thinking of, put it into the chat. I do have a couple other questions before we show your website and where they can access the free courses that you mentioned. So where do you shop for your groceries, Emo? Where's the best, cheapest store to go?
The cheapest store. Well, I go to... Well, there's a local store here, not one of the, it's not one of the chains, so it's not the Sobeys or the Superstore in Dartmouth, where they tend to have pretty good prices on meats, and they have sales and all of that. So I go there for certain things, but I'm still a Costco and Walmart kind of guy, and the odd time I'll go to the Superstore. And then I use the Flip app, which I'm sure you have shown to your folks, on my phone. So if I was looking for something, I would do a search for that on Flip while I'm planning my list and then know if it's on sale. But I'm not going to drive 2 hours to save $2 type of thing, right? So time again is valuable. But yes, the Flip app. So that's a fantastic tool. So what we do in our house is on the fridge there's a whiteboard, and you just keep all of us write down the things we want, and then the day before we go, we just go on Flip and see who has what on sale, and then see if it's worth maybe just 1 or 2 stops to get all of that, right?
Yeah.
So
that's great. I know that Walmart used to price match. So if you found something at Superstore or Giant Tiger that was a cheaper price, you could go to Walmart and show them. But I found out they stopped doing that recently.
Yes, they stopped that during the something with the pandemic. Because I'd asked about that, and it was just the cost of doing things in the pandemic. They just felt it was just one of those things they weren't gonna do. Now, who knows? Maybe after things come back to the new normal, they might start. But for now, they don't do that anymore. Yeah. I haven't checked if the other stores do that, but I know some stores still price match.
Yeah, right? I know Giant Tiger does. There might be a couple other ones that do. I know Best Buy does for electronic goods.
Yes.
So there are a few that are still price matching.
Yes, and I think another thing to do with pricing is, again, and this happens to some of the bigger box stores, where the fact that something is sold in bulk does not necessarily mean it's a great price. So if you don't know your prices, you might buy a big box of something for $20, but you paid 50 cents or $1 more per pound compared to if you bought it at your regular store, right? Or if it's something that typically goes on sale at the stores, So for example, for the last 3 months, I haven't paid more than $1 for chicken drumsticks, right? Because again, I know within cycle, they every month or so it comes up, so I'll buy enough, put it in the freezer, and then before I'm done the last pack, it goes on sale again and I buy some more, right? Yeah. So that's buying within the cycles, like I talked about earlier on.
Yeah.
Right.
And like you said, I think it's within like 3 months or so, the same things go on sale. So
exactly,
getting a big freezer called a deep freeze is super useful, and you can save a ton of money as long as you end up eating it eventually before
it goes bad. Exactly. Yeah. So exactly. I mean, like, we like sweet potatoes, and again, sweet potatoes. I've the last couple of times I bought sweet potatoes, I either paid 27 cents a pound or 47 cents a pound, right? And again, because I know it seems to happen in the cycle, I'll buy about maybe 10, because they're the real big ones. I'll buy a couple to just last me for a while, and then wait till the next one happens, right?
Right.
So again, it's just why pay $2 for something when you can pay 50 cents, right?
Exactly.
Why pay 20,000 when you can pay 10,000? And I think if you just keep doing that in as many places as possible, you'll find that you freed up a lot of cash that you can use to do fantastic things, like go buy more houses. Although with the crazy increase in prices lately on houses, it's not. It's becoming a daunting task, especially for new home buyers, because the prices are just that's another session to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we could stay and talk about this stuff all night. But yeah, I mean, the tips that you shared were very useful. Thank you so much for coming on. Before we go, I want to show your website, Emo, and show people where they can access your courses. So I'm just going to add that to the stream here. So I'm on the EGI Tech website. So up here in the top left corner, you can access the online courses. And I don't think we want that ad.
I think there might be yes.
Okay, there we go. So it's right here, this big red banner, take my courses for free on Skillshare. If you click through to that, Emo invites you to try Skillshare Premium free for 14 days. So you can sign up and then access his courses, how to improve your credit score and how to save money.
And if you notice there, each one is, I think one is 42 minutes. That's the how to save money. And then I believe the credit score is only 14 or 15 minutes. So it's just a lot of information packed into a condensed thing so that I don't take up too much of your time. So you could watch that and then go back to practice what you just learned and do everything else you normally do to live the rest of your life. So there you have it.
Exactly. Great. Well, thank you for sharing those courses. Thank you for coming on tonight, Emo. You shared a lot of great content. Thank you, everybody, if you're watching live. And if you're watching later on YouTube or Facebook, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. And we will see you again next week. So next week, we have another session Wednesday night at 6:30. We'll be hearing from 2 immigrants, and they're going to share their story about immigrating to Canada and what worked for them, what didn't work, what they expected, and how things have been for them so far. So thank you, Emo. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and have a great night.
Thank you very much. Same to you. Take care. Thank you, Ian.
Oh, we have a comment. Ezraf says, thank you for watching, and have a great night, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.